The story began with the three colonists, George, Alessio, and Stefan, landing with their pods on an unknown planet called RIMWORLD. They built a house of their own, and they expanded. They made a farm, built power generators. Everything seemed fine. But as the peace settled, the raids began. Some that nearly destroyed the colony. Others that ended quickly, without any problems. But the problems were not only from the outside. Some who went crazy because of stress. So the teasing began. But things were good, and our protagonists prospered. So, the story continues.
They started building a massive wall to stop the raids from coming from all directions, thus only allowing a few entrances, and those with traps. Towards evening, Rosalina wanted to attack the colony. An important thing to mention is that Rosalina is Alessio's aunt, and yet she didn't stop. She shot and hit Stefan. That's where it all ended. She had to be shot down. George said, "Fuck it," and went with Gladius to finish the job easily. But apparently more damage was done by Rosalina with the gun. Seeing that George was retreating, Rosalina decided to look for a better place to defend herself. Because of the bleeding, Stefan wanted to leave, but Rosalina managed to hit him directly in the back, knocking him down. Then Alessio took a defensive position and turned behind the barricade. Then Rosalina charged, and Alessio shot her, dropping 4 flakes, 11 smoke leaf joints, and a revolver. Later, blight was discovered on the crop, compromising it. However, at the same time, a pod landed nearby. An anarchist named Anarchist? He was a space refugee. Alessio rescued him. The next afternoon, in honor of his cousin, Alessio took a smoke leaf joint and smoked it in the kitchen. After Anarchist recovered, he joined the colony. On April 14th, Alessio cleaned up all the compromised crop. Because winter was coming, they built some radiators in the house. The snow had started to fall. They needed thicker clothes. But BP had other plans. Attacking with a heavy SMG. Stefan trying to finish the big wall. BP started shooting him from behind. Hearing this, Stefan armed himself and started shooting too. The others, hearing the noise, joined in. When they all arrived, they managed to shoot BP down. And in the evening, Stefan took that heavy SMG, being the most capable of shooting with that weapon. Sometime later, apparently George needed chemicals. Not good. So he got up and smoked a flake. But what happened to the wild man? He froze from the cold. Thus, the protagonist decided to do a grave for him too, so that there wouldn't be another body left in the colony. Towards the evening of the night of July 11th, while George wanted to bury Rosalina, another ride was announced. This time, Stefan couldn't use that SMG because the attacker died from the traps he made. Nice. So At least they know their defense works. After 2 days, while Alessio and Stefan were working on the defense, a baby boomalope stepped on the trap and exploded right when Stefan was walking by. Luckily, the damage wasn't that big. A day later, Stefan made Anarchist a helmet, too. So he put it on right there. One night, I noticed that Jasper got some really good skills. Perfect. As the snow melted, a white character reappeared among the grass. It was a melting snowman. I don't know who made it and when, but cute. After a while, George managed to research plate armor and continued with machining. And Stefan could build plate armor from now on. On the night of July 10th, the Mad Muffalo approached the defense, passed through it without any problem, and charged forward. The protagonists defended themselves, shooting with everything they had, and took it down. Fortunately, another very large food source. And in the meantime, an eclipse appeared. Unfortunately, Alessio was still upset because of the death of Rosalina. The next afternoon, Stefan collected an interesting plant that grew out of nowhere. This ambrosia was perfect as a chemical consumption without being addictive. So towards the evening, George wanted to try it. And he liked it a lot. On July 12th, George tried the plate armor. So he approved it. After a day, the protagonists received an interesting message. A location where they could find a heavy SMG. And this location was close. Very nice. Another pod landed with a character with red name. Uninteresting. Later, Stefan made the second plate armor. Then something was wrong. Alessio was constantly stressed. And upon closer analysis, apparently, he tried to flirt with George and was rejected 2 times. The first time, Alessio pursued George by making an observation about salty foods. George turned his back. The second time, he tried to compare George to a beautiful bug, and George ignored the advance. That was unexpected, poor Alessio. Then, with the warm weather coming, the protagonists changed their thick clothes for plate armor. On September 3rd, George finished his research and continued with gunsmithing. Then 2 thrumbo, a rare species, entered our area, passing through the traps as if nothing had happened. Shortly after, a wanderer, Rene, wanted to join the colony, and our protagonists accepted him with open arms. He came and dressed in plate armor and took the gladius because George exchanged it for a revolver. Then they started getting ready to go on a mission. And the team? Stefan, Alessio, and Anarchist left for that heavy SMG. They looked for a good route, then made a camp and slept on the ground. And after another day, they arrived. At the location, a horde of muffalo was standing near a building. The team let Alessio go. And in the building there was only an SMG and a Cooper. That's it. Okay, nice. In the meantime, George finished researching machining and continued with flak armor. When the crew with the SMG arrived, another ride was starting, but the raiders decided to attack in the morning so the team could sleep. In the morning, Black and Trout approached, but their bows had no chance against the protagonists' SMGs. Then Alessio had a strange call and dug up the first attacker of the colony, Mr. Naked. Just to see his hat? But maybe the same energy exploded the cables due to the tension. On September 12th, a caravan from YN passed by us, and apparently, Kio was Alessio's aunt, and our protagonists bought a rooster and a hen. In the evening, the rooster was just waiting to be liked, so he left straight for the border. The next evening, they finished a construction for animals, and Alessio put the hen in its place. In the morning, another raid. This time there were 3, but with primitive weapons. They entered our base. One was knocked down by traps, and the other 2 were easily finished off by the protagonists' SMGs. Then, as they were analyzing the mountain for other materials, they came across a strange construction. Shortly after, another pod landed, but uninteresting. After the team checked all the corners of the building, Alessio came to deconstruct it. What they saw was very interesting. 3 very futuristic robots, some materials, and some cryo-sleep. Then it ran away from there and covered the exits. This construction is way too strange. It should have remained closed from the beginning. But curiosity was about to destroy the entire colony. The next day, the settlers began to expand the barn for other animals and noticed that the hen had laid a few eggs. The next morning, a caravan from YN passed by the protagonists, but they were not interested because they wanted to tame turkeys. Alessio tamed the turkeys and brought them to the colony. Their first animals. After 6 days, they laid 3 eggs. The next generation was on its way. On the night of December 13th, Alessio was in a bad mood again. And apparently, he tried to create a romance, but this time with Renee. Really, Alessio. Feels bad, man, he says. He tried to flirt with salty food topics again. Ha, ha, ha. The weird part was that in the morning I looked to see how the guys were getting along. But apparently, suddenly George called Anarchist a mongoose. This drove Anarchist into a rage, and they started throwing punches at each other. This was very random. I hope it doesn't have any influence in the future, but we will see next time. Until then, stay strong. Don't flirt with topics like salty food. And be careful who you call mongoose.